All right, Carl, you are on.
Okay, thank you. Susan, can you determine who is attending right now? Can I get a sort of a roll call for the West Jefferson case? I know Mr. Hale's on. I know Mr. Pizzino's on. We're not sure whether or not Brian Adams is on.
Correct. He is not on. Mr.
Okay,
Adams
you can tell that.
present.
Okay.
There's
And,
a possibility he's out in the audience with an attention.
So we do have some people who are attending as a viewer online and not as a participant. Obviously, we don't know who those people are, but there are people out there that are logged in looking at this presentation. You need to contact Ms. Steer or follow the directions that she had given you to join. Just clicking the link from the Board of Appeals website will not get you in to participate today.
I think what we'll do, let's just go on the record and indicate that it's December 4th and it's a few minutes after 8:30, and the board is convened to consider its agenda for the day. While we're waiting for the 8:30 case to sort of suit up, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our last two sessions of November 16th and November 17th of 2020.
So moved, Mr. Chair. Chip Welch.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chair. Neil.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes for November 16th and November 17th, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, those minutes stand as approved. Susan, do we want to consider the January dates now?
That's completely up to you.
Will you be able to determine if Mr. Adams is successful in logging on and let me know when that happens?
I will.
Okay. Well, gentlemen of the board, do you want to look at your calendars or do you want to save that for later?
Well, we can do it now, I guess. I mean, if I'm not reappointed, it won't matter to me.
Yeah, I'm surprised that hasn't happened.
When is your time up? When do you need to be reappointed?
My time up was up in October, so this is technically the last hearing I think I can participate in until I'm my 60 days is coming up here.
Is it 60 or 90?
I think it's 60.
Is that right, Susan, or is it 90?
It's 60. He's correct. This is the last hearing. Hopefully
I
something happens next week.
I just saw someone flash up that we're in the lobby.
Correct. I just admitted someone. 614-873-1566. Could you identify yourself, please?
Hi, this is Brian Adams, Pleasant Valley Fire District.
Thank you, Brian. He's
Okay.
here.
Okay, let's defer the January then. I'll call the first case. This is case number 20-0126, deals with the premises located at 138 West Main Street in Plain City, Ohio. And the authorities, adjudication numbers noted on our docket. Let's have an introduction of the parties, beginning with the appellant or appellant's representative. State your full name, spell your last name, and the capacity by which you're here in a representative way. We'll do the same thing with Mr. Hale and Mr. Adams, and we'll have an oath administered and we'll begin. Mr. Pizzino.
Okay, William Pizzino, Pizzino, 9495 State Route 161, Plain City, Ohio. And I am the design professional representing the owner, Tim Dawson.
Thank you.
Thomas Hale, Hale, 28 East Main Street, West Jefferson, Ohio. I am the building official representing Plain City, Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Hale.
Brian Adams, ABAMS, Fire Marshal for Pleasant Valley Fire District, 650 West Main Street, Plain City.
Okay, very good. If you would, if I'd indulge you all each to stand, raise your right hand. We'll have our court stenographer administer the oath.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, Mr. Pizzino, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Since our last meeting, I sent in plans for the our improvements to the second floor of the building. I also sent in some pictures showing the outside of the building, the inside of the building, some information from Dalmatian Fire as to some pricing, and I also sent in the application that we sent into West Jefferson, and the request to change the original plans as shown on sheet C100. This was put in as an A3 community hall after discussions with the fire department and Mr. Hale and the owner. That's when I submitted a revision to make it an A2, and that's how we got to this point to have the hearing. As you can see, the work included redoing the floor structure. We put a new exterior stairway, and that is shown on page A200. I'd like to add, as part of this adjudication process, we would be willing to cover that stairway. So that's something that we're putting on the table that we will do. It also included a new HVAC system, which is shown on page H100, and a new electrical on the second floor, and new service to the building. The pictures show, I have one that shows the interior stairs. They're at the rear of the room. I have a picture showing the base of the stairs. And I believe you all have all this information, correct? So, or do I need to somehow bring it up?
We do, but you probably don't know how to present that, right?
Yeah, I don't.
All right, so Mr. Began has the ability to do that as our architect member, if you want him to put something up on the screen for us to review.
What would you like me to put up?
Can you put the picture of the at the interior stairs, looking at the base of the stairs?
I can. And I know you didn't send it as part of your documents. We don't have a first floor plan. When we get the picture up, I'll have a couple of questions regarding that.
Okay. And Marshall Adams, are you on by phone, or are you able to view the hearing?
I'm attempting to get logged in online. I am on phone right now.
Okay.
I'm in as so I can see what's going on. I just can't speak through Teams.
Gotcha. Thank you. Okay, Mr. President, go ahead.
I'm trying to find, Mr. Chair, which document of all the documents that are in that has the pictures. Oh, here they are.
Yeah, that picture will work for right now. So that's a picture at standing at the base of the stairs on the inside, and that's the egress door to the outside, and that's 18 feet from the base of the stairway.
Okay, so my question to you is this: I see a lot of kitchen equipment in there. Does this stair come down in the middle of the kitchen?
No, that is a hallway, and that is a server station.
Okay, so there's never gonna be people standing there blocking the exit there.
No, that is not. That is correct.
How can you say that? I mean, it's a server station. There's gonna be people there all the time.
Well, I suppose, yes, there's going to be people there, but I guess I would say that they're not going to be blocking the way.
Okay,
Especially if
servers
there was
never carry
emergency.
trays of food or trays of drinks and stand in the middle. I mean, that looks barely wide enough for one person to stand there. I mean,
Well, I guess if you're talking about in a normal situation, yes, but if we're talking about an emergency and if there's a fire and the people have to get out, there's not going to be anybody there blocking it. So I'm not sure how to answer that question.
Yeah, so let me tell you throughout my concerns, right? So we're asking for to not sprinkle this building. I think last time you were before us, we said, well, we need to see some building plans. You gave us a second floor plan. We do not have a first floor plan to see where this comes down, other than these pictures that show, hey, it looks like it comes down in part of the kitchen. The stairs are not enclosed. They are not rated. I am also concerned because you are stipulating that your building type, which requires 1 hour floors and roof structure. I don't know how you achieve the 1 hour of the floor structure. And I do not accept a spray-on fire application to serve as a 1 hour for the roof structure. So,
Okay.
You're asking for a variance for sprinklers, and there's still a lot of other items in this particular project that give me pause and concern.
Okay.
Put it that way.
I got to ask a question then. I had a conversation with Mr. Hale where I wanted to add a first floor plan and some of this information. And Tom, if I'm saying something wrong, you advised me not to, because that would put us into a review. So I'm willing to revise the plans and give you all that information, but we'd have to again table this.
I don't think I understand what your comment was, Bill, when you said
Well,
you asked me.
Mr. Bagan, is that the correct way to say your last name?
Yeah, Began, that's fine.
Began has asked for a first floor plan and some additional information. If you recall, I asked you if I wanted to put that information on the plans, and you advised me not to, because then I'd have to submit the plans to you for further review. So I'm willing to do all that, but then we're going to have to table this. And I'll give it to you and you'll have to review it. I think they do need that information.
Okay, I apologize, Bill. I don't recall responding not to submit that. I didn't realize that the existing facility and operation of the restaurant, that floor plan was going to be required for the addition of the second floor. But if we're going to review the whole thing as a whole, then yes, it would have to be resubmitted.
Let me defer to my colleagues. What are your thoughts on where we are on that?
Well, I mean, Mr. Chair, I mean, I think I kind of let my views be known. I mean, last time that they were presented before us, I think we all said, hey, yeah, we understand from the testimony that the cost for the sprinkler system, largely driven by the tap for this particular project, might be too much for this thing, for this. And I think we were open to the possibility for a variance, but we needed some more information. So we got and maybe I'd like to hear some of the testimony on the sprinkler system cost, since we had asked for that last time. But we got a second floor plan and we got some pictures, but now the pictures open up some other questions that, again, to me, you're putting 165 people up on the second floor. that the two means of egress there, I don't know if they are, if they meet the requirement for separation, half the diagonal distance between those. They are definitely not enclosed. One is exterior. So if we're not going to have a sprinkler system to protect these people, we need to be able to look at all of the other safety and egress systems. And, maybe there's some more of that information can be talked through. Maybe not. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, let's hear, Mr. Pizzino, let's hear about the cost of the system, the sprinkler system.
Dalmatian Fire, I've submitted the cost for a, basically he just gave my client a price of $100,000 to do this. It's not broken down, but I did show you the picture of the outside, looking down, and the tap is required, has to go under State Route 161. So there'll be 50 foot of bore and jack under the roadway. Then the village, if we put that line in, is going to require a fire hydrant, which I showed the location on that picture at that location. Then we come in with a 60 foot, a 4-inch ductile line through the alley into the rear of the building, in which case we would have to build the backflow preventer and the valves, which I've submitted all the specifications for that. And that'll have to be enclosed in a room, and then they'll sprinkle the 2 floors. As an option, we have a price in here for a fire alarm, which my owner would be willing to put in as part of this adjudication process. And also as part of this adjudication process, we'd be willing to lower the occupant load of the 2nd floor.
So,
Any questions of Mr. Pizzino relative to that subject?
I do have one, Carl. This is Neil. So the rough estimate of $100,000 from Dalmatian does not include the approximate cost of $75,000 for the tap fee and the inspections, correct?
Right. That just includes the work. It does not include the tap fee.
Now, are that inspection fee, is that the annual inspection fee, or is that just the installation?
That's the construction inspection fee.
Okay.
So I have 2 questions relative to that. One, why would you be required to put in a hydrant at the owner's expense? And number 2, why do you have to take that line all the way to down the alley to the back of the building?
Because if we bring it into the front of the building, there's no way for us to put our backflow preventer and our valves and everything else there. That's the restaurant seating area. We're going to have to bring it into the back of the building where we have room to put this.
Where does the current water line come in?
There's a 1-inch water service that comes in at the rear of the building.
Okay, so that water line goes all the way down the alley?
Yes, there's water services that go all the way down that alley that serve this building and the buildings on the other side. So okay, there's 4 water services that go down that alley.
So that water line that goes down the alley is not adequate for the sprinklers?
No, it's only a 1-inch line, and we need a 4-inch. It's a 1-inch service line that's copper, and we need a 4-inch ductile line for our fire service. So we're gonna have to tap the main with a 6-inch tapping sleeve and valve, bring it across, install the hydrant, then reduce down to a 4-inch ductile and bring it into the building.
Okay, so let me ask, where does the property next to you get their water from?
They have their own service that goes down the alley. So there's 4 service lines that go down that alley and serve those different buildings. Each one has their own service line. And they're tapped off the main that's on the other side of the road.
I have a question. So this doesn't have a basement in this building?
No, there's not.
Oh, okay. So the city, they're not going to require a fire hydrant either way? It's only if you put in a sprinkler system?
That is what they told us. Doesn't make sense to me either, but that's what they told me.
Yeah, I mean, and again, maybe Mr. Hale or the fire might have some input on that. I think if they're making you put in a fire hydrant, that's something that the city would cover the cost of.
Well, that was our hope too, and they told us it was our responsibility. So I'm not disagreeing with you that we shouldn't have to pay for that, but right now they're telling us we have to. And again, it doesn't make sense to me that we have to put it in if we run our fire suppression in the building, but if we don't have to. So I'm as confused about that one as you are, but that is what the village of Plain City is telling me. And telling
Mr. Hale or Marshall Adams, any comment on that?
I did confirm with the village that they would not be covering the cost of the hydrant, and it was confirmed to me that. And that's the only question I did ask of them. I asked if there was any relief on the tap fee, development fees that could help economic development avenues, and the village indicated to me that there was nothing on the table at this time that they could offer.
Okay. Thank you.
This is Mr. Adams. So as far as the fire hydrant, I don't know if that's Bill, is that something that the village told you that you had to do?
Yes, that was something Nathan said that they would require, but we wouldn't have to do it if we didn't put the fire suppression in and tap the line. So
I know we had some conversations about a hydrant, depending upon where the fire department connection was installed for the new system. As far as I know, from the fire department standpoint, just so the board understands, obviously we're a fire district, so I don't work for the village of Plain City, so I can't speak for them.
Right.
But from the fire department standpoint, we would be willing to kind of accommodate, so that a new fire hydrant wouldn't be required, for us, to supply the fire department connection for the new system, which would be something that in a new build, we would have a fire hydrant in proximity to the FTC. I'm fairly confident the fire code gives me as the fire code official some leeway to extend that distance. And then the other conversation about the tap fee, my understanding at the last village council meeting, it was approved that the tap fees were going to be waived for fire suppression systems in existing buildings in the downtown area. I can double check on that, but it was my understanding that that was approved by council. So it should be, the tap fees should not be an issue at this point.
That information was not conveyed to me.
Okay. I sat in, I've been requested to sit in on both the council work sessions and the council meeting, and I believe it was the council meeting 2 weeks ago that they voted on that.
Okay, thank you. Well, where are we postured here? Do we need the first floor plans? Does this have to be resubmitted to Mr. Hale? Or are we going to preserve this record but continue this matter for maybe even as soon as our next hearing, if we can pull that off? Are the board members? Do they have enough information? Do the board members have enough information to make an informed judgment about whether to grant a variance or not at this time?
Carl, this is Neil. My opinion is, if the tap fee is waived, that sheds a whole different light on this whole situation. So, from my standing here, I would like a definitive answer one way or the other.
Chip?
I would agree. Knocking $100,000 off the price of a sprinkler system is significant based on the tap fee. I have a concern with the exterior stairs. Obviously, number one, not being covered, but it's all combustible material, and there's there's no protective measures like bollards or anything like that to make sure that somebody doesn't come down the alleyway and knock the stairs off the side of the building. So I would like to see some protective measures to make sure that those stairs aren't damaged and then left unrepaired for a period of time.
Brad?
Yeah, I agree with Paul. You know, need a first floor plan. And with Neil, we need more information concerning the sprinkler system and fire tap, water tap.
If I could jump in, I just called the village
Please.
administrator, Brian Adams. He did confirm that the village did approve the waive of the fee for the fire system taps from the village. And he said that it was passed at the meeting a couple weeks ago. That should go into effect within the next couple weeks. So that is confirmed. They did waive the tap fees.
Thank you. Well, I think if nothing else, we still need the first floor plans.
Well,
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I could prepare all that stuff and submit it to Mr. Hale. And I would prefer probably not to set a date for a hearing till I got it to Mr. Hale and he could review it. And then I could let Susan know and we could get put back on a docket if that works for the board.
That would be a scenario that could work. What do the members of the board think?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. And again, I don't think I'm against a variance for this project, but if we're taking out a life safety system, need to understand how people get out of the building in an emergency. Like to hear from the fire official, their level of comfort as well too, on having an exterior stair and the interior stair not being enclosed and going through, a server station area, because he's got to get his forces up there to do search and rescue as well as combat. Maybe fire official also having their thoughts on, hey, are you open with an open roof structure that has some spray and fire protectant on it versus the 1 hour required by code. I think I'd like to have Mr. Hale tell me that as well too. There's been presented that the floor system is a 1 hour and that the roof system, should be 1 hour by the code, and we're using a spray on in lieu of that, and how he feels about that. So there's some questions that we can't answer today still, I think.
Great. I think in light of the I didn't hear from Mr. Hale on that. Are you comfortable if we were to continue this matter, allow you to take a look at whatever Mr. Pizzino provides you, and we'll get this thing back on the docket?
I'm absolutely comfortable with that.
Okay, and Marshall Adams?
I'm comfortable with that as well.
Okay. All right, I'd entertain a motion to continue the matter.
Mr. Chair, I would move to continue this matter.
Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, this matter will be continued. And Mr. Pizzino and Mr. Hale, Marshall Adams, you'll get notified at the appropriate point by Susan Steer, our secretary, as to when the next hearing is.
Right.
Thank you very much,
you.
and hopefully we can move this progress.
Yes.
Project
Appreciate it.
Thanks. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
I just punched out of here. Okay, let's just take a second, and then we'll come back and we'll do our state case. I'll be right back. Is there a second? Someone needs to mute. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
There are two people who were admitted to the meeting by phone. That's 886-9627. Identify yourself, please.
This is architect Danny Pop.
Okay, let's just take a second.
Thank you, Danny. I'm going to mute. You need to mute your computer, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, anybody that is attending by phone that is trying to watch online, we are approximately a 10-second delay what shows up online. So if you're trying to listen and participate also, you will not be able to do that.
Hello?
Hi, Danny. Your phone's unmuted. However, for background noise, you'll need to mute your computer.
I did that now.
This is Landry. Am I supposed to check in?
In a moment. You're
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
And I need to know who 440-315-3851 is. To unmute your phone, you need to hit *6.
Hello.
Hi, who am I speaking with?
Hello.
Hi, I can hear you.
Hello?
I just need to know who I'm speaking with.
This is Steve Vogel, City of Euclid building official.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah,
There's one other case before you. So if you want to
Okay.
hit *6, that will mute your phone and you can still hear, of course.
All right, here's a question. I've been watching it since the beginning here. I don't see, there's nothing on my screen to unmute or mute. Are you controlling that?
It's not on your screen. On your phone, you hit *6 to mute or unmute. And then
Well, I'm in the Microsoft Teams meeting on the computer, and I can see it.
You evidently have come in as an attendee, so you were only watching. You did not enter on your computer.
Yeah, I don't understand why not. I'm watching it. I'm signed in. I don't know why you're not seeing me on there.
You did. There's something in your download where you did not come in on. You did not join the live event. Did you try to do it in your browser?
Yeah, I've tried it like 20 times. I don't know what else to do. I keep getting the meeting. I'm getting the meeting, but
you're by phone. You're okay. You just, I offered in that letter the opportunity to test to make sure that you did come in as a presenter on your computer, and a few do, and that's why we offer that test, so that beforehand any glitches in the download of the app could be resolved. But
yeah, I mean, it looks like everything's fine. I'm just not being registered as being on. I'm just watching it, and I'm on Microsoft Teams, and I'm signed in. My name's there signed in. I don't know why I'm not.
Give it up, dude.
Do you want to? Do you still want to participate by phone, or do you want to continue to?
I guess I'm trying to participate by phone. It's a mystery why I had to get everything here, but I'm not getting registered as a participant.
We've had technological issues since April ourselves. All right, we're going to call the case. This is case number 20-0129. This deals with a drug treatment facility center located in Gallipolis, and this is a division matter, and the division's adjudication number is noted on the docket. Let's have an introduction of the parties, beginning first with the appellant and/or appellant's representative. State your full name, spell your last name, and the capacity by which you're here representing the property owner. And then we'll do the same thing with the division employees, officials. We'll have an oath administered by Nick, our court reporter, and we'll begin.
Okay, this is architect Danny Pop, P-O-P-P.
Thank you.
This is Dr. Nicholas Landry.
Okay, and I see Dr. Landry. Okay, very good. And then Young's on. Is that what I understand for the division?
Yes.
Okay, and Mr. Eaton will not be?
Yes.
Okay, all right. If each of you would stand, raise your right hand. Nick, would you administer the oath?
Sure thing. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Okay, with respect to division cases, we usually get a memorandum from the building official. In this case, it was Jeff Eaton, and it looks like items 1 and 3 are teed up for adjudication, but there's an issue as to whether or not item 3 can be withdrawn. At least that's what we have in front of us, presented to us by the division. But Mr. Pop, you can go ahead. You have the floor.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah, Jeff sent me an email, and I think he's referring to withdrawal item number 1 as opposed to number 3. Number 3 is what we're applying the variance for, is the area increase. So clarify that. But yes, we started out this project knowing we had to sprinkle the system. We brought our sprinkler contractor on board, and unfortunately, the existing public water service has insufficient pressure and capacity to give us everything we would need. So in the information I've sent to you, see what it would take for us to get a storage tank, fire pumps, and the like. It's up to like almost $300,000, $350,000 on a conservative bid, and that doesn't even include the tap fees. So we're hoping to get a variance on the area increase. You saw the Google Maps I sent to you. You can see we're surrounded by 3 sides with public right-of-ways, give plenty of access to the building. And then our client is in the process of receiving written approval from the neighbor to the east to give permission for fire truck and fire personnel access on the east side of the building if ever would be needed. I've spoken with Fire Chief Keith Elliott from Gallipolis. That's a volunteer fire department. I'm still waiting on a letter from him. He said their response time is anywhere on average around 10 minutes to this location. So as soon as I would get that letter, I would forward it on to everybody and can give it to the building official as well. The neighbor to the east is on holiday. When she gets back in town, Dr. Landry will have that document signed and notarized and given to the building official too. So we're hopeful we can get approval on our request here. This facility is badly needed in Southern Ohio, as you know, with the various opioid and other addictions that take place down there.
Questions by members of the board, Mr. Pop?
Pardon me?
I'm asking if any of the board members have questions of you.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Part of the one of the items talking about the adjacent neighbor, which side of the building is that?
It'd be to the right if you're looking at the site plan and or the Google map I sent in.
Okay, so how far? Oh, I see. They're to the right on the site plan.
Yeah, we don't have it on the actual our construction documents. That's why I sent you guys the Google Earth map there. It's the ground top building. It's probably looking at the scale on the map there. We thought it was more like 40 feet, but looks like we got an easy 25 to 30 feet between the 2 structures there. Our building is about 12 feet from the property line.
Yeah, that gives me some concern, and let me put that drawing up on the screen for those who are watching online. And the reason why, just a letter saying, hey, okay, you could use our property for access doesn't help us a whole lot if she sells the property and someone decides to build a building there. And now you are 12 feet away from the property line and no fire truck can get down there.
Well, I would agree with you on that. That's correct. The other item I was told that they would put fire trucks on the front and back and pull their hoses up along the side if they had to.
Yeah, if a building's on fire, I can't see a fire official wanting to send his down. How long is that building there?
Let's see. Let me get my other drawings here. Give me a moment here. 136 feet.
Yeah, so I can't see a fire official wanting to send his personnel into a 12-foot space with a burning building on one side for 136 feet.
Okay.
I just.
Well, the building is still sprinkled with the 13D system. We just didn't have the water pressure and the financial viability to do the other system as we've documented there for you.
I also need to understand, I couldn't quite see on the plan, so you have a commercial kitchen hood system as part of your drawings. What I couldn't see is where your kitchen is at.
Okay, the kitchen is facing Jackson Pike at the front of the building. It is a type 1 hood with fire suppression system.
Okay, that's probably all the questions I have, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions of Mr. Pop by members of the board?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is Chip Welch. So just so I'm clear from under my review of the plans here, this structure is completely, everything's located on the ground floor, correct?
That's correct.
All right.
I have a question, Mr. Chair. What exactly is covered under the 13D system?
You're asking me what's covered by
Yes.
the 13D system?
Yeah.
The entire treatment facility, as indicated on the FP1 sheet we submitted with the application.
So is that the existing and the new? So it would be the entire building?
No, it's not the entire building, but it's 2/3 of the building. The remainder of the building is Dr. Landry's medical offices. And it is separated from the treatment center with an existing 2R fire separation wall.
Okay, let's hear from the division.
We have two concerns. Number one is the calculation. I believe the item number 3 is asking for building area limitation calculations, and we do not have sufficient information at this point. That's why the item number 3 is more for an informational gathering type of questions. And that's why Mr. Jeff Eaton said this should not be a peerable item because we just don't have enough information. So if they can provide some sort of a building area limitation calculations and to show us that, you know, how far deficiency that is, and then we can make a better determination at that point. And regarding the property on the east, typically the building code would require that no build zone to be deeded into the deed document, recorded into the deed document in order to be able to count as no build zone. That's in the building code, and so that is my recommendation there.
If I could comment, I spoke about that with Jeff Lasker, our plan reviewer, and going through preliminary calculations with him. We're probably around 50%, 40 to 50% short on the area, given this is a 5B construction type. And unfortunately, Dr. Landry approached the neighbor, and she's not willing to give an easement.
Okay, questions of members of the board of either of the parties, or comments by members of the board?
Sure, probably a question for Jang. What is the required exterior wall rating if that wall is 12 feet away from the property line? Do you know off the top of your head? I mean,
I think the fire rating at this point does not count into a height and area calculations.
Right.
So it's separated from the neighbor's yard. It doesn't do anything for the building area calculation.
May I interject some information?
Yes,
Sure.
go ahead.
In response to your question, there would be a 0 fire range since we're more than 10 feet away from the property line.
Yes, thank you. So in terms of access, a couple of things. The lady next door is an RN. She's retired. A really nice lady, great neighbor. She is not willing to grant an easement or sell the property. The property she values at over $200,000. It seems from what I've seen, and I'm no fire official, but when there's a major fire, it seems like eminent domain sort of becomes, an option for people to gain access to a burning building. But she is definitely, without question, giving her consent. And I do understand that she could sell the property. Maybe I could ask her to sign a document that if she sells the property, that it is with the stipulation that there is fire truck access in the event of a fire. But if you look at the diagram of the building, in the back of the building, so Jackson Pike's on the bottom, and in the back and on top of the diagram, you see there that there is a big parking lot. You see the wheelchair access sign with the ramp. If you look below that ramp, you see that there are like 4 stairs going on to a deck. So actually a fire truck can pull right into the back parking lot and run a line right into the building. So the fact that that left, or rather right wall on the diagram, as you're looking at it, is 136 feet long, a fire truck actually in the back of the parking lot can access the building right there in that corner. There's doors. And so therefore that shortens the length of the building effectively by, well, I'm going to say it looks like about 65 feet, which would reduce the 136 down to around 70 feet. So you got access there and then access in the front to really clarify your, and then in the front of the building in the parking lot, when you look where the wheelchair ramps are, and to the right of that, in that corner, fire truck can access right to there as well. So you really only have, that short central stretch of building that you don't have access to technically in our current situation on the right side. But hoses can go right in the main doors on both sides. And then there's a jutting piece in the back and there's a jutting piece in the front. To clarify where the hood is with the kitchen, that piece that juts out of the front, that rectangle toward Jackson Pike, the hood is actually going to be probably about, and Danny can confirm this exactly, but probably about 15, 20 feet from the front of the building.
That's correct, Dr. Landry.
Yeah, and there's a door at the end of the building to just run a hose right in. So the kitchen is all contained in the half of that rectangle on the Jackson Pike side. There is no kitchen in the rest of the building at all. So we tried to make this as reasonably accessible as possible in the process. So really what you're dealing with proximal exact access by a fire truck is just that center cube. Because you don't have to be way out on either road with a fire truck. The parking lots are there. They're all concrete. Matter of fact, the entire lot is concrete, except for a small strip of grass in the front and a small strip of grass at the back. And it seems like it's very accessible. I have a patient who's been on the fire department before, and he's was the chief for one of the major plants up in the river, Gavin. And he's very attuned to all of this, and he said that, this plan is as good as it could be. Now the current fire marshal is new in the position. The person who's inspected buildings and done all this for Gallipolis County, his name's Mike No. He inspected the building originally when we built it, and Mike retired apparently in October, and they haven't replaced his position. And the current fire chief said that he does not have the training. They don't do fire inspections in Gallipolis. They don't do anything with buildings at all. They're getting someone trained. Hence his, lack of real strong input. He said that even when we get the building inspected, we'll have to call Columbus and have them send somebody down. So this seems to be very accessible by the back parking lot and front parking lot. And that little stretch in the middle is probably less than 70 feet deep. So you're looking at a hose going in 35 feet each way, maybe. That's, there's been residential buildings in the community already. There's one by Cardinal Health, and their building was pretty close to the same depth of that. And they had residential persons in, just, you know, like we're doing. And I'm not trying to infer anything other than that is the standard that seems to have been acceptable historically. The area to the right, if you look at the back of the building where that wheelchair ramp is with the wheelchair sign, if you look to the right of that, that area that has a vertical line, horizontal on the bottom, vertical line going up on the right, and then the angled line coming down, high on the right, low on the left, that area actually is an open treated wood deck. That's not part of the building. So that accessibility is there as well.
One other comment in regards to accessibility, board members, is there's 6 exits out of this facility right now. 3 to the front and 3 to the back. And that's not counting the exits from the medical office building. They have 2.
And Snowfirst Fire and Safety has been in this community for decades. They are the standard down here. They've reviewed this whole building. They're actually very comfortable with it and with their bid. And Buddy doesn't take on any project that he's not comfortable with. I don't know if you know him. You know, the project seems realistic and safe. And I wouldn't do anything that wasn't safe. I'm a practicing physician. I don't. That probably doesn't mean anything at your level, but you know, thank you for listening.
Okay, any questions of members of the board of Dr. Landry?
I have one, Carl. This is Neil. On the 136-foot area, the 70+ feet section that is not accessible by the 2 different parking lot areas, that currently is the residential area that is covered under the 13D system, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
The only side that's not accessible on is the east. We literally have a deck in the back and parking lot in the front and parking lot in the back. So you've got.
I understand that, but I just wanted to clarify what part was suppressed.
Yes, sir. But that's only a 70-foot stretch, not 136.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, let me put a little bit of some parentheses around what we're discussing here. I mean, we're talking about access and what, and James probably going to have to comment a little bit on this, is it seems like the state is asking them to withdraw item number
3.
Item number, well, yeah, I think they got their numbers mixed up, but withdraw the item regarding the area calculation. So to get into the weeds, just so that you understand a little bit. So what the architect has done has taken advantage of an open perimeter to do that area calculations. And if he does not have that open perimeter, he cannot take certain advantages of those area calculations, meaning that the facility for this particular construction type is bigger than what is permitted by code. So the discussion about adjacent to the property line and having an easement on that side allows them to take advantage of the code to allow the building area to be bigger. So yes, it is related to fire safety and access, but it is, you know, the reason why that this discussion is even being had is because of that open perimeter requirement that the architect is taking advantage of to allow the building to be bigger than what is permitted by code. So what I think needs to happen is I think either The state has to say, okay, we're happy to grant a variance on that as well too, instead of asking for it to be withdrawn. I think that's the only way we could get there. And the fire sprinkler thing, you know, I understand, right? We don't have water service there for them. We are doing a D system, 13D system. I think I'd be okay with that, but I think really the bigger issue is the open perimeter issue.
You're 100% correct, sir. Thank you for the clarification.
If I may ask, when you calculate the area that you had mentioned, since the area in the rectangle on the right going back on the building and the rectangle on the front, would those two physical square footage areas fall out of this calculation since they have direct access and they're only like 24 feet thick?
Yeah, it's a perimeter calculation. So you take the outline of the building, and any area of the building that has, you know, 30 feet or greater qualifies for that open perimeter.
So then, Danny, did that area not calculate out as?
No, you have two sides of the building then, right? You know, actually four sides. You have the horizontal and the vertical adjacent to those open areas that have open perimeter. You don't have open perimeter on the long side.
That's the whole crust of the issue.
So again, maybe Jane can give us a little bit of understanding, and he may not be able to move forward without further discussion with Jeff on this particular issue.
Yeah, in terms of calculating the building limitations, that yes, you're correct, Paul, that this is a perimeter's length is in calculation. So you calculate the entire length of the building and subtracted the length of the building is not open, meaning that you don't have a 30 feet clearance, which it will be the east side of the long side of the building, which calculated out. So when you take out that portion of it, you have the rest of them are open perimeter. You divide it by entire length of the building, then that ratio deduct 25%, you know, and that becoming your percentage of your open perimeter. Now, another thing is that we don't have the dimension on the office side on your drawing, so we can't really verify what that is. In your initial submission of the drawing, I look at it, there's no dimension mentioned there. So I cannot verify it is okay or not. So I would recommend it that you give a proper dimensions and run a calculation. And then in the building like this, it will be two categories, separate category. One is mixed use and separated, or mixed use non-separated. So you gotta declare which one you want to go by. And two calculations are just slightly different. So I guess we don't see that calculation provided. So I'm not sure what am I looking at this point.
Well, I have to comment on that. I wouldn't know where we would have to have that calculation for this, or I would definitely would have had it for you based on all the other information I gave you. But we have the 2-hour separation wall from our treatment center in the existing building. So we'd only have 3 sides we'd be able to do that with anyhow. When we do the calculation, that's why we end up being about, like I said, around 40 to 50% square footage reduced. So we'd be asking the variance for around 3,000 square feet of area for this building, I believe. But we can definitely provide that calculation. So if you want to base your how many square feet there actually is, we can certainly find that out 100% and make sure we have that for you.
Does it sound like we're going to continue the matter?
Yeah, I mean, I would think so, Mr. Chair, that it would make sense. And again, I think it seems like the state is willing to support a variance for the sprinkler system change, but at this time does not have enough information to be able to support the other item on the adjudication letter. So what I would recommend is that we would continue the case and then allow the architect and building department to be able to get together to exchange the information, and then we can get that back. And in the meantime, I understand we do have a new fire official there. We do rely heavily on the letter of support from the fire official for this, for variances, only because after all is said and done, after the building department does their job, after we do our job, the people that have to show up is the fire department, and they have to deal with whatever we decide. So if Dr. Landry, you can pursue a letter of support for variance for these items from the fire official while we continue. I think that would be very helpful.
The fire official is represented that without Mr. No and a trained individual, he's not comfortable supporting any variance requests. He just doesn't do it, doesn't have the background in it. And I don't know that that will really be procurable given his understandable position, realistically. I did ask directly on the subject. Danny, do you have a commentary?
Yeah, that's the same thing he implied to me. I was hoping he could make a position one, not say he didn't have a position one way or the other, and left it up to the board. But I'm still waiting for that letter. I talked to him 2 days ago and haven't received anything yet.
Let me defer to our fire official member here. Chip, would the fire marshal weigh in on something like this under those circumstances?
Possibly. I mean, that is one option, is to contact the state fire marshal's office in Reynoldsburg and kind of see if they'll either prod the local officials or work with the local official to help craft a response. They may not put it under fire marshal letterhead, but help the local official write a response or something to that effect. I think it's at least worth a call to the fire marshal's office.
One other item, just to make sure everybody's clear, the system we have is a permitted FAR system, is a permitted sprinkler system we have. It's just like the type that allows us to double the area increase like a typical sprinkler system would.
Well, I think we're in a
situation. Sprinkler system.
I think we're to a point where we're going to continue the matter.
Okay.
We've created this record. I feel for you on the fire official void down there, but maybe there's a way through the fire marshal's office, the state fire marshal's office, that you can get some traction on that issue. The board does consider the fire officials weigh-in to be significant in most cases, and so we'd encourage you to continue down that path with the local fire official. At least try. I would entertain a motion to continue the matter.
Mr. Chair, this is Chip Welch for Board of Building Appeals case number 20-0129. I'd move to continue.
Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chair. Neil Gehring.
Thank you. All those in favor of continuing the matter say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so Mr. Pop and Dr. Landry and Yang, matter will be continued. You'll get notification of the next hearing date that you'll be slotted into. If that comes up too quickly for what you need to accomplish, we can always push that hearing back. But best of luck to you, and we'll stand adjourned on this hearing at this point.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Okay, Susan, I did get an email from you. Do we know who we have for Euclid? It is 9:36.
A number of individuals have been admitted to the meeting, but by phone, so I'm not aware of who they are.
Okay,
You'll have to hit *6 to unmute the phone.
okay. While we sort of do that roll call, I'm gonna step away for 1 second and just fill this up. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a quick break too, Carl.
Okay, Nick, let's go off the record for just a second.
For those who have entered by phone recently, could you please identify yourself? I'll start with 440-552-9846.
Yes, this is Pastor Myron Edmonds, Grace Community Church, Euclid, Ohio.
Thank you, Pastor. 216-203-4052.
Yeah, this is Zach Maddox, building chair for Grace Community Church in Euclid.
614-323-4163. Oh, is this Sanders?
Yeah, it's Chief Sanders for the next one on early, sorry.
All right, thank you. Mr. Vogel, are you expecting anyone else from the city?
Fire, maybe somebody from the fire department.
I sent invites to the 3 that you recommended.
Hi, my name is Andrew Basic from Euclid Fire Prevention.
Okay.
There you
Andrew.
go.
Sorry, Andrew, what's your last name again?
My last name is Basic. It's B-A-C-I-K, and I'm the fire inspector for the city of Euclid.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, when the board members get back, we'll reconvene.
Mr. Tipton, do you still expect anyone from Martini Construction?
You may be muted. You were muted.
There you go.
Thank you. It's taking a while to get it there. Yes, we were expecting several of them to log in together from their office.
Okay.
Is there any way you can contact them? Because I don't believe any have.
I'll call them right now.
All right, thank you.
So then, Susan, as I understand, we've got Mr. Vogel and we have Inspector Basic for the city. Is that correct?
Correct.
So we do have 8 attendees showing as viewing online. So they may be in as a viewer and not as a participant. If that is the case, please contact Ms. Steer about joining by phone, or if you're not able to log in properly as a presenter.
Don't know where. Not allowing me to present.
Does the board members' screens look the same? I think earlier this week I had to change my default browser because of the email that Susan sent, and my screen looks a little different today.
Are you using Chrome now?
I think that's what they set it to.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't see as many participants as I did. We now have 9 attendees.
I'll address that because it's hard to follow who all's here on the screen.
Right.
This is Philip Tipton. I just got off the phone with Martini. They were joined audio only, but are trying to join in so they can have video and participate.
Okay, we'll give them a few minutes here. Brad and Neil, are you there?
I'm here.
I'm here.
Well, let's look at our January calendars then while we're in a lull. Susan, just Susan,
Yes.
just January, right? We need to pick how many dates in January.
The standard 3.
Okay.
If you'd like to do February, that's fine too.
Okay. Who wants to throw the first dates out? Would it be the week of the 11th?
That works for me.
Who was that, Neil?
Yeah, the 11th, are you saying, Carl?
The week of the 11th,
Yeah, I'm fine with 11th or 12th. I'm going to be sad because actually I was supposed to be going on a nice trip out of the country the first couple of weeks of January. That obviously is not happening. So you'll have me participate, but I will be sad.
Sad. Okay.
Can we do the 12th? I'm scheduled to be in trial on Monday, the 11th.
I'm all right with that.
I'm going with the 12th.
Same.
I'm good.
Brad?
Yeah, I'm good.
8:30 start?
Yeah.
Okay. Keep in mind also that January 18th is a holiday, state holiday.
Yes. See that.
24th and 25th. Anyone?
That would work.
25th and 26th.
Oh yeah, 25th and 26th.
That works.
The 26th, I have a hearing at 9:30 in the morning.
Afternoon?
What about the 20? I could do the afternoon, or I could do the 26th and 27th. I mean, the 25th's open. The only thing I have is 9:30 on the 26th that week.
They both work for me.
Yeah, any of those combinations will work.
I'm gonna do like afternoon on the 26th and early on the 27th then.
Sure.
That's fine.
Okay. Brad?
You're muted.
Yeah, somebody was texting me. Yeah, I'm open most of the month except for the first. So,
we're past that. All right. So he's all right. So we'll do the 26th afternoon, the 26th, early the 27th. It sounds like.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Now, Mr. Tipton, any idea if they were successful, or Susan?
No one's been entered that I'm aware of.
Yeah. They're working on it. I would say we go ahead. I apologize that they're not here, but we have a letter from them, which has been submitted as well. So we should have the information we need.
Okay, I appreciate that. Okay.
We do have some people with 440 and 216 phone numbers that are on the line here. So I just want to make sure. that we
This
have
is the part-
everybody identified on there, and there are a couple that are muted. So if you are participating by phone and want to unmute yourself, that is *6.
Anyone on those 440 numbers that is a participant or wants to be a participant in the Euclid hearing?
This is John Paul Martini from the Martini Construction Company with Greg Stevenson and Mark Merrick.
Okay, we got it. All right, so we're good.
Pastor Edmonds, Grace Community Church Euclid.
Got you. Okay. All right. Let me do this informally then, real quick. So for the Euclid case, we've got Mr. Timken, we've got Pastor Edmonds, we've got Mr. Martini. Do we have Greg Stevenson or Mr. Kitchell?
Yeah. Right here.
Okay. And then for the city, we have Steve Vogel and Inspector Basic. Is that right?
Yes.
Do we have anyone else, Pellegrino or anyone else from the city of Euclid?
There's another fire inspector, Amy Lanning, who's here.
Okay, very good. That's spelled Lanning?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's go back on the record, Nick. I'm going to call case number 20-0131. This is the City of Euclid adjudication and building authority matter. It deals with the Grace Community Church located in that jurisdiction, and that jurisdiction's adjudication number is noted on the docket. Let's do this. Let's have an introduction of the parties. Let's begin with Mr. Timken. And I want to get this, I want to make sure we make our record on these appearances. So state your full name, spell your last name, the capacity by which you're here. Then we'll ask the pastor to do that. Then we'll ask the Martini Construction individuals individually to do that. And then we'll do the building official and the two fire officials. Go ahead, Mr. Timken.
Thank you very much. My name is Philip with one L. Tipton, that's Tipton. And I am the architect of record and vice president of the McKnight Group in Grove City, Ohio. Also joining from my office is Jason Cottrell. He is the project architect and intends to swear in as well.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Pastor?
Yes, Pastor Myron Edmonds, that's EDMONDS, and I am the lead pastor of Grace Community Church.
Okay, and then the Martini Construction representatives, beginning with Mr. Martini.
Yes, this is John Paul Martini. John Paul, 2 words, Martini, Martini. I'm owner and president of the general contracting firm, the Martini Construction Company. Also with us from Martini Construction is Greg Stevenson, Stevenson. He's our vice president of operations. And the third person with us is Mark Merrick, Mark Marek. He's our vice president of finance and administration.
Thank you. Mr. Vogel?
Yes, Steve Vogel, Vogel, building official for the city of Euclid.
And then is Inspector Basic and Inspector Lanning?
Yes, Fire Inspector Andrew Basic, Bacik.
Fire Inspector Amy Lanning, Amylanning.
Okay, all right, we accomplished that much. If each of you would stand, raise your right hand. Nick, would you administer an oath?
Just stand and raise our right hand. That's what he told us. I don't want to stand. We're standing.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes, I do.
All right. All right, very good. Mr. Tipton, you have the floor.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully this will pop up here in just a few seconds. All right, do you all see the site plan for the project?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'll try to make this as brief as possible. Start out with the first question, which we need to answer, which is what are the technical and financial hardships that prevent compliance with the provisions of the code? To help answer that, I just want to give a little bit of background. The existing building as it sits today is 112,407 square feet. It is on the northeast side, which is the right side of this drawing. The exterior wall sits on the property line, and it's 10 feet from the adjacent building. It was built in 1971. It was originally a Kmart. I'll show you a few photos here in just a second. On the southeast side, which is the bottom of the drawing, there is a current loading dock which comes within 35 feet of that property line. But there is a hillside right next to that property line. So no matter what's decided today, we are planning to demolish that truck dock to allow excellent fire access to the back corner of the building. As I mentioned, it was originally a Kmart. I'm going to show you a few photos here. It's really a blighted building. It's in complete disrepair. And in maybe somewhat of a rough neighborhood, and Pastor Myron could maybe help address that as well. But just a couple of notes about the neighborhood. Euclid has actually the 5th highest juvenile delinquency offense rate in Cuyahoga County. That's out of 60 cities, villages, and townships. And 60% of children live below the poverty level in this neighborhood. And so that's just gives you maybe a little bit of a feel for the neighborhood. So in response to this, the church is really looking to change this building into an asset for the community, a multi-use church facility that's going to have all kinds of ability to provide community center type services. But to do that, they only really need to remodel approximately 21,000 square feet of the building, which is over 100,000 square feet. So again, you're seeing some photos here. It's in complete disrepair. It's been sitting empty since 2002. And so as you can imagine, HVAC units were stripped a long time ago. Electrical wiring has long been gone from the building. And it's in pretty rough shape. But again, the church is committed to this site and are really wanting to invest in the community in this location. So the issue is that obviously the building's way too big for use group A3, construction type 2B, 1-story sprinkled. We're limited to a max of 38,000 square feet per table 506.2. So there were really only 3 options to make this work. One was to go for unlimited area per section 507 and 507.6. And that's been our plan from the beginning. We had discussed that being our main plan from the beginning. Of course, there are several requirements. It can only be 1-story and sprinkled, which it already is and will be. There cannot be a stage, but only a platform, and we certainly will comply with that. The big issue is there must be 60 feet clear all the way around the building. And so, again, we can achieve the 60 feet on 3 sides, but on that northeast side, we would have to demolish approximately 60 feet of the building and then build a new wall, new foundation, modify structure, handle shear in a new way. I mean, there's just, a lot involved in that. And the additional cost for that, we'll get into cost here in a few minutes, but the additional cost to do the demolition is just a little over $500,000, and that includes, the new structure, new wall, all along that northeast side. So that's the whole big first option of how to make this project work. The second was just to upgrade to type 1B construction, which of course would require 2-hour fire spray or drywall rating on all columns, beams, bearing walls, and any 1-hour rating on any roof joist or deck that are less than 20 feet, which would be most of it. So, that was an even more expensive option, and we ruled that out pretty quickly. Of course, the third option would be to demolish 2/3 of the entire building until all that was left was under the 38,000 square foot limit. And we never really considered that as an option. So the building has to be sprinkled in any case. And so I'm going to switch to a floor plan here and just show you a little more of the entire building.
Hey,
And
Bill,
where
we're
the
not-
proposed-
we don't have that on the screen. Is there a way we can see that on the screen? This is Martini Construction. I don't know if we got bumped off the screen from, we hear you.
All right, is everybody else able to see?
The board is.
Yeah, we see
Site
it.
plan up.
All right, Martini team.
Everybody that is signed in as a presenter can see immediately on their screen. If you are watching as just a viewing participant on the web and participating via phone, anything on the web is going to be a 10 to 15 second delay at best.
All right.
There we go.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right, on the screen now, you should have a floor plan of the entire facility. And again, this is without the 60 feet on the right side demolished. And so basically we got to the point that the total project is 2.7, almost 2.8 million without the demolition, which is another $500,000. And the $500,000 really puts the project out of range for the church. And so this is when the Martini construction team and the owner were able to get a meeting with city officials on September 3rd of this year. They met with Steve Vogel, members from the mayor's office, the building department, fire department, to figure out how to help this project move forward. And coming out of that meeting, there was consensus on a few things. One would be that they would be okay not demolishing the building, allowing the building still to be right on that property line and over the area limitation, which is the variance really that we're requesting, as long as a 2-hour fire barrier would be put all the way around the interior church space, all of the A3. And so that's what you're seeing in the heavier hatched area. And so we have called that out in the drawings that have been submitted. And of course, Mr. Vogel denied, which he had to because it doesn't meet code in terms of area. But if we provide that 2-hour fire barrier, that was the first item of consensus. The second was, again, that the entire building would be fire suppressed. The third item was that there would be at least 20 feet around the building, and that's on the 3 sides other than the one property line. And again, as I mentioned on the site plan, in order to make that happen, they do have to demolish the truck dock on the backside, but that's a much easier project and requires minimal new wall infill. It's really just, I think, a 10 or 12 foot, maybe 16 foot area of new wall to close that in. So that's not really a problem. And then the fourth thing was that there was discussion about on that exterior wall on the northeast side that's on the property line, needing to verify that that is fire rated. Mr. Vogel, I've got a note here that he checked, and the exterior wall didn't need to be any more than a 2-hour wall. It is a 12-inch concrete block wall that was built in 1971, and we were not able to find any original construction documents of the building from anybody or in the building. And so we're pretty confident that that's the case, that it's certainly easily 2-hour fire rated, being a 12-inch concrete block wall. But the bottom line, and Steve Vogel can address this as well, but they said that there was a possibility of drilling holes to check it out, but maybe didn't even feel that that was necessary. So that is what we are asking, is permission to go above the limit of area if we do these other things above and beyond. There is no fire barrier required at all between A3 and S2, but upgrading it to a 2-hour fire barrier, certainly would be above. And then again, making sure that there's at least 20 feet around 3 sides of the building for the fire department was a big part of that as well. I think that is everything that I'll mention at this point. Certainly happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Any questions of Mr. Tipkin by members of the board?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the rest of the building is still planned to be S2 and currently unoccupied at this time. Does the church have any future plans of what they want to do with that space? Are they anticipating leasing it out? If so, what are the types of uses that you plan to see in there? Big difference in, okay, it's going to be open. As the church grows and expands, we may take some of it over versus, hey, we're packing it with a, high rack shelving unit in there for as a storage thing. So that use does have, even though right now we may not know, but I guess we need to talk a little bit about what the future might hold for that space.
I would certainly invite Pastor Edmonds or Zach, who's the building committee chairman, to address that as well. But the church does have plans to expand into this space over time as they need more of it. To the best of my knowledge, there has not been any discussion at all about leasing to any outside party with high rack storage or anything like that. And again, we mentioned in our appeal, the only reason we called the entire rest of the space S2 is because we just had to have something to call it. It is intended to be unoccupied shell space with basically a 0 occupant load, but yeah, the S2 was just the next closest best option. But Pastor Myron or Zach, if you would want to address that, feel free.
Yeah, sure. This is Pastor Edmund. Yeah, you're spot on. We do have plans in the future as we continue to grow to expand the ministry, which is the reason why we bought the facility. We wanted to grow into it and believe the community can benefit greatly from some of the programs. This is just phase 1 for us, and anxious to kind of get this phase going.
Just to follow up to that question, if after we hear from the city, if there was a condition of variance that suggested the S2 space shall remain unoccupied, as a condition of this variance, obviously we would look, that if you wanted to move and expand, to allow the building department to look at it. And again, I not that I want to tie your hands, but and I think from seeing the things I have from the city, they're trying to scratch their heads. Hey, how do we do this? Well, if it's not going to be occupied, and we don't anticipate it being occupied, we can put that in as a condition and would make everybody feel a little bit happier and more relaxed. But I just wanted to see what the pastor thought about a condition like that.
Obviously safety is important to us as well, and if we need to check back in for the next phase, if I understand you correctly, that makes a lot of sense to me.
I did have one question. I'm just trying to zoom into the plans here, but do you have any means of egress through the unoccupied shell space?
Yes, we do. And let me go back. This is a blow up of the remodel area, and the dashed lines represent egress paths. And so you can see even from the shell space, we are showing doors coming back into the building with exit signs so that there would be egress from that space. And then this is the overall larger plan. And again, you can see just how many exterior doors there are throughout that entire space. And we've shown the egress paths, and there would be exit lights. And so, yeah, absolutely egress from that space.
So that raises the question of how do you make sure that young kids or whatever, don't go out into that space to do nefarious things, and if there is an emergency, how they traverse safely across 100,000 square foot of space. I mean, I realize you say there's exit signs and exit lighting, but I mean, is the shell space lit? I mean, how do we make sure they get to those exits? Because there doesn't appear to be any defined means of travel.
Yeah, this may be a good question for Jason Cottrell to help answer here from my office. There certainly could be, I don't remember off the top of my head if we have lights that are designated as night lights throughout the space. We should. Certainly that's a code requirement. The doors specifically in the 2-hour fire barrier between the remodel and the S2 could definitely be locked, could have panic hardware, one direction only from the shell space back into the remodeled space into corridors. And so that would be, I think, a very simple thing to do and could prevent anybody without a key, from getting back into the S2 area at all.
Yeah, and Philip, this is Jason Cottrell. There is no need for any of the church space occupants to egress through shell space. It's just the opposite is true. We did provide the path, the egress route, that if someone were in the shell space, they can egress through the church space, but there's no one in the church space who we are pathing through the shell space to get out.
Hey fellas, this is JP Martini, and we're listening. Those will be alarmed anyways, I'm sure, going into that other space. I think that's one of the, one of the safety issues that we would bring up, that those doors that were going through that area would be alarmed.
Well, the doors in the wall between the church A3 space and the S2 do not have to open into the S2 area at all. They could be locked in that direction.
Beautiful.
Coming from the S2 back into the A3 could have panic hardware and exit signs. So and be alarmed even, if we want to make sure that if any of those are opened, that we know. But yeah, as Jason pointed out, there is no. We've designed it in a way that there are no occupants exiting through the shell space or the S2 area.
Good. Even better.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Carl, this is Neil. I do have a question. It was mentioned that the facility or portions were going to be suppressed. What portions are going to be suppressed?
The entire building is required to be suppressed in any option, even to get up to the 38,000 square foot number in table 506. It's got to be 1-story sprinkled. To get the unlimited area, which we were originally considering, requiring the 60 foot of demolition, and it was also required to be sprinkled. So that's a requirement of any of the options we're considering.
Okay, so the S2 will be suppressed.
Yes, the entire facility. Yep, all of it.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Mr. Tipton? Hearing none, let's hear from Mr. Vogel.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Tipton laid it out very well in the beginning there. We did have a meeting, talked about what their desires were. We know they were over area. We did feel that since the entire facility was being suppressed, and then they did propose that 2-hour wall to separate, even though it wasn't a firewall, it's a fire barrier. And that's basically the only the only thing that keeps it from being compliant, if it was a fire wall, they would be completely in compliance. So the only thing I'm looking at is the fact that there is not structural independence between the two occupancies. And so my main concern is for occupant safety. I think that that provides, what they're proposing provides adequate occupant safety. In my mind, the real issue is firefighter safety, since we don't have structural independence. And so, of course, we brought the fire department in on this, and they can comment also on their view of this. But I think for occupant safety, they have presented a good case. And there was a question, and that has been a big question about what they're going to do with the rest of this area, the S2 area. Don't believe it's going to stay S2. I can't imagine they're always going to store non-combustibles in that area and do nothing else. But as we do our job here, I have to deal with what's presented. And if that's how they're presenting it, that's how we're going to deal with it. And I think it's for the church to decide whether that's going to be a big problem for them in the future. They're going to be very limited to what they can do with this area. But as they have presented this case to us here, I feel I can support what they want to do here as is.
Okay, and either of the fire officials want to comment?
Andrew Basic. So, Steve was correct at that meeting. We talked about, different ways that the church could propose, to get to occupant safety with this project. And then also our office has talked about firefighter safety. And because the building was going to be fully sprinklered, that weighed in heavy in our decision to support this.
Okay, questions of members of the board of either Mr. Vogel or Mr. Basic?
I think I'm in support of the variance, probably with the standard use condition.
Paul?
Yeah, I think I'd like to hear from the pastor, maybe Mr. Tipton and Euclid representatives, just regarding, again, do we want to condition that this remains unoccupied, or do we want to, say, hey, it is S2 and they can use it as S2. Obviously, if it deviates from an S2 use, that would change the scenario. But I'm just wondering, do we want to leave it as an unoccupied space, or do we want to keep it designated and allow them to use it as S2?
This is Pastor Edmonds. I guess in my mind, we anticipate growth. As I said, we purchased the building for the express purpose to eventually utilize the space. So I guess I really have a question. What is the best case scenario for us, best option, course of action, to give us the flexibility to grow into the facility? Of course, this is a starting point. We've been waiting to get to this point now for approximately 5 years. So, of course, there's great anticipation from a congregation to get something going. But I'm pretty confident that once we do begin, that we do have the flexibility so that when the time arises, we can, continue to grow. So I know I just asked the question with a question, but I just want to be clear on what's being said.
This is Philip Tipton. Just a quick comment too. Of course, any expansion of the church remodel area would require a new building permit, new drawings, and potentially come back for a hearing like this again at a later date, because it will again not meet the building code at that time. But my point would be that any remodel of the building would not be precluded if there is a condition that this S2 has to remain unoccupied. That would, I think, mean until the next project or until the next proposed remodel, which again would require a new building permit at that time. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, that was my assumption as well. I just wanted to make sure I was on the same page there. I'm assuming that if we come back to the point where we want to continue to grow into the building, that we would have to go through this process. Is that a correct assumption?
Yeah, this is Paul Began. I do believe that is correct. Again, maybe more from the city and the fire department personnel. You know, if we keep it as an S2 use group, they could use it as an S2 use group, which means they could store things in there as permitted by code, or we could, you know, we could stipulate as a condition of this variance that it remains unoccupied, right? So what it's called S2, it could be, you know, anything if it's going to be unoccupied. I just want to make sure I have some clarity about I mean, I understand the direction from the church, right? Right now, this is what they can afford to build out and they plan to use. They have some additional space for themselves to grow. You know, but in the meantime, if somebody says, hey, I want to store something there and they can receive some rental income, that might be to their benefit. So I just want to have some input from the city, I guess, on that particular question.
So Andrew Basic, Fire Department. So this was one of the topics that we had talked with in emails back and forth going for a few months. And our position was if that S2 portion were to remain unoccupied, we would be more comfortable with that. So they weren't, you know, able to, you know, use it to store, you know, anything, and then that, you know, the more things that people store in there, ultimately, you know, that falls on the fire department through the years to enforce.
Yes.
I agree. I count on the fire department a lot for these type of things. You know, projects are presented, we approve them as presented, and then after that, you know, then it's up to the fire department to police it. And so, yeah, I very much respect their opinion on what happens in this S2 space in the future.
Just for clarity, this is Pastor Edmonds again. Are we only talking about the use of space for storage for proprietary purposes, or, I mean, will our congregation be allowed to store things in that unoccupied space? Thank you.
Yeah, we would prefer that there was no storage, like that portion of the S2 was not occupied or operating.
Okay, do you need time, Paul?
Yeah, I do need a little bit of time, and let me just, again, I don't want to necessarily have to design things on the fly. Would it make any more sense as far as use areas maybe for the church to look at saying, hey, north of column line 5 is going to be the, you know, some additional use by the church. Again, I don't want to, you know, unless the city says absolutely we don't want anything in there, you know, obviously if they're doing a donation drive, for example, you know, where, you know, they're doing clothes or Coach for Kids or anything like that, well, geez, they have all this huge area to use for a use like that, that I think would be beneficial to the community as well. And again, I just want to, sorry to keep going back to this. I just want to, you know, kind of be a little bit clearer and more specific about, you know, is that allowed to be used at all for anything? Because I can anticipate it being used for something.
Yeah, I'll just co-sign on that. the city knows how engaged we are in the community, and that
Yes.
we do quite a bit of stuff. So, yeah, I do have cause for pause about the, I guess, the stringent nature of what's being requested. I understand it, but to Mr. Tipton's point, I'm just wondering, is there any room for compromise or for expansion for storage area, maybe in a smaller space in the area that he mentioned? That was for Mr. Basic.
Hey, Paul, could you draft a condition where limited storage would be granted with the approval of the fire and the building official?
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. Yeah.
I mean, is it, I mean, we can have further discussion for sure, but is it possible to, like designate, kind of, as you were saying, designate a specific area, and then also have only, certain people, that have access to that area. So it's just not something where, any civilian can just kind of end up in this portion of the building, because we're talking about, maybe like, 80,000 square feet of just open area. There may be people that could be in there that aren't very familiar with the space. And I know that there's exit lighting and egress pathways, but, that's our ultimate thing, is to make sure that if there's anybody in there, that, they'll have immediate access to exits. And then also that the storage will be, neat, orderly, and comply with, the fire code.
I have a question for the architect. Is this 80,000 square feet heated and air conditioned?
It is minimally, and this may be a question that Jason Cottrell could help answer, but it was not intended to be, tempered for everyday occupancy, but at a real minimal level.
I mean, so you're right. In the winter, you can see this would be really an inviting place to use for, people for recreation, and not only, I don't know if that's allowed in there.
So
pretty likely to use.
I'm sorry, Jason Cottrell, as currently drawn, we are providing heating only, just because of the sprinkler piping. We need to maintain, keep things from freezing, but because we weren't really intending that portion of the building to be utilized or occupied, there isn't cooling in that portion of the building.
It's a nice idea to think about being able to use that for recreation or different things, except that that would make it an A use, 3 or 4, or maybe 2. But in any case, that I don't believe that was the intention. Certainly, again, Pastor Myron or Zach could help answer that as well. But the plan was not to occupy that part of the building at this time.
How do you police?
Yeah, no, area has been remodeled, that we had plans for, anything outside, some space for storage, for outreach events, programs, etc. I'm still hanging on to find out what those possibilities are there. Not necessarily needing all 80,000 square feet area, but maybe a portion as deemed appropriate by City of Euclid. Would be helpful to us.
As a practical matter, how do you control the use of that area? Is that up to the fire department? I guess
Andrew Basic. Yeah, sir, you are 100% correct. That would be up to our Fire Prevention Bureau through inspections to maintain that space is being not occupied.
Okay, any other questions? Do we want to go off record? Paul?
Yes, Mr. Chair, if you give, I'm still, I have been writing some of these items down. If you give me a moment, I will have some conditions ready.
Okay, thank you. Nick, we'll go off record.
We're off record.
Huh?
Okay, Mr. Chair. Let me see if I could, I'm going to throw these up on the screen here, and then I will read through them. And,
okay, Nick, we're back on record.
Back on record, yep.
Okay, I have put them up on the screen. If you are participating by phone, it's going to be a few seconds before it shows up on your screen. This variance is conditioned on the following. Number one, a fire suppression system shall be installed throughout the entire structure in both the A3 and S2 use group areas based on OBC section 903.3.1.1 and NFPA 13. Number two, means of egress illumination shall be provided throughout the S2 area per OBC section 100.8. Exit signage shall be provided throughout the S2 area per OBC section 1013. Additional exit access identification shall be provided to the satisfaction of the fire official. Number three, a 2-hour rated fire barrier shall be provided between the A3 and S2 use group areas. Openings into the fire barriers shall be protected according to OBC section 716. Penetrations through the fire barriers shall be protected according to OBC section 714. Number four, the S2 area shall remain unoccupied except for limited temporary storage use for the church use with permission of the fire official. Number five, the design professional shall provide a rating on the construction documents of the existing east masonry wall based on calculated fire resistance per OBC section 722 or other methods as acceptable to the building official. Number six, portable fire extinguishers shall be installed and maintained at each means of egress in the S2 area. Additional fire extinguishers shall be provided to the satisfaction of the fire official. Number seven, this variance is granted based on the use, construction, occupant load, square footage, and level of activity identified on the approved construction documents, including the maintenance of all building systems and any conditions required herein. And number eight, the above conditions shall be listed as a special condition on the certificate of occupancy by the building official.
Okay. Well, let's begin with Mr. Tipkin. Are those conditions satisfactory? Do you have any questions on those?
I have no questions. They make sense and sound good. Yep.
Mr. Vogel?
Yes, those, it's very clear, and I can support all of those, yes.
And Marshall Basic? I mean, Inspector Basic?
Yeah, we can agree to the conditions. We would approve it.
Okay, very well. I would entertain a motion.
Yes, Mr. Chair. For Board of Building Appeals case number 20-0131. The appellant is Allegheny West Conference Corporation, Grace Community Seventh-day Adventist Church, for the premises Grace Community Church at 26100 Euclid Avenue. That is in Euclid, Ohio, 44123. The appellee is Steve Vogel, building official for the City of Euclid Building Department, and adjudication order number 2019-11105. I move to grant the variance subject to the conditions previously read into the record and noting the no objection of both the building and fire officials.
Okay, that motion's been duly made. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chair, Chip Welch.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, gentlemen, the variance is granted on those conditions. Is there anything further to come before the board in regard to this case?
Not for me. Thank you all very much. We appreciate it.
Okay.
Have a
All
great
right,
day.
Thank you. Okay, we stand adjourned on that case. And Susan, do we have our Columbus parties?
Yes.
Any need for the board, or Paul, do you need a break?
Are we done?
Thank you for asking, Mr. Chair. I'm okay, thank you.
Okay. I know we get to step away when you're doing the heavy lifting on the conditions and stuff. So, okay, we're gonna call the last case on our docket. It was scheduled for 10 o'clock. I apologize, it's 10:38. But in any event, it's case number 20-0090. It's a Columbus adjudication, and it deals with the premises located at 1408 Oakland Park Avenue, located in Columbus. Columbus's adjudication is noted on the docket. Somebody may need to mute. There's some background noise. It's kind of significant. Let's have an introduction of the parties, beginning with the appellant and/or appellant's representatives. State your full name, spell your last name, and the capacity by which you're here. We'll do the same thing with the CBO and the battalion chief.
Yeah, this is a Young Jiang, Jiang, project consultant.
Good morning, Young.
Good morning.
Is Pedro's going to be with you?
I am not sure. He hasn't logged in yet so far.
Okay. All right. Mr. Ghosh.
Morning, Mr. Chair. Amit Ghosh, GHOSH, Chief Building Officials, City of Columbus.
And Chief?
Battalion Chief Scott Sanders, Columbus, Ohio Division of Fire, Assistant Fire Marshal.
Okay, if Mr. Mr. Ghosh, and Chief Sanders would stand, raise your right hand. Nick, would you administer the oath?
Okay. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Okay. Young, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is the case about the proposed daycare center in 1408 Oakland Park Avenue. We received adjudication order for the existing ceiling height and the beam height in the basement as not meeting the code requirement. And we have a last meeting discussing about the variance. Then after that, we've been working with the City of Columbus to explore several possible options to remedy the situation. And now we have come to the conclusion that the owner decided he wants to install a limited area sprinkler systems in the basement as suggested by the City of Columbus. And I believe the cities are in agreement of this kind of arrangement. And therefore, we are back to the appeal board for variance. Thank you.
Okay, got questions of Mr. Yang before we hear from Mr. Ghosh. Okay, Mr. Ghosh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If they install a limited area sprinkler system for the basement, will give the Columbus Fire a little more time to get anybody out of the basement. I'll be in support of the appeal.
Chief?
Columbus Fire will also be in support of the appeal. We've had much dialogue and conversation, and we're satisfied with this solution.
Okay. Questions of either Mr. Ghosh or Chief Sanders by members of the board?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I do. We did have previous testimony on this case. I think that's why we don't have a whole lot of questions. And the concern was, okay, in the event of a fire, you know, with the low beam there's would, you know, fire officials going down there to do their search and rescue for the children that are going to be placed down there, you know, gonna be okay. So I think I'm good with the request that they had gotten together and figured out a solution. I might ask Mr. Ghosh and maybe Chief Sanders if we shouldn't also provide some have that low head areas be marked with some type of paint or some reflective tape or something like that. Also, again, in a fire situation, right, even with the limited sprinkler system, there would not be a lot of visibility. And if there's a low head area that we could identify with some type of marking, want to see if that would be something they would be consider.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To Mr. Began, yeah, I completely agree with you there. And this will be a question for Mr. Young to see if he would, if his client will be open to that. And we have in the past, and I realize it's a cost a few $100s, requested that in a basement like this that they put one of those emergency lighting boxes with the 2 domes, so that if the power goes out, there's still light there. One shines on the stairway, one shines in the basement, and the 2 domes are pointed like that, and it's a cost of a few $100s. If Mr. Young would agree to that, that will be that'll go a long way too.
Yes, this is Young Chang, the consultant. Yeah, I don't think that we will have a problem with that. I believe the exit lighting is already on the planes, but we can certainly check into it. If there's no emergency head, then we will install that also. And the marking is no problem for us to mark on the low beams.
Okay, thoughts and sentiments, members of the board?
I would be in favor of the variance with the conditions we just talked about. Seems like they've worked with the city and the fire department to come up with a solution to make this work.
I agree, Mr. Chair.
I am as well, sir.
Okay. I am as well. Paul?
Yes, Mr. Turner.
Okay. Are you preparing some proposed conditions?
Yes, give me a moment, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Let's just go off the record for just a second.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I do have some conditions prepared and ready to put those up on the screen for everybody to take a look at.
Okay, we're back on the record now.
Okay, and those joining by phone, these conditions will appear on this screen like a 10 or 15-second delay. This variance is conditioned on the following. Number one, a limited area fire suppression system shall be installed in the basement to the satisfaction of the building and fire officials. Number two, the low beam shall be marked with a contrasting or reflective color to the satisfaction of the building official. Number three, emergency lighting shall be installed near the egress stair to the satisfaction of the building official. Number four, this variance is granted based on the use, construction, occupant load, project area, and level of activity identified on the approved construction documents, including the maintenance of all building systems and any conditions required herein.
First, Young, are those conditions satisfactory?
Yes.
Amit?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And Chief?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. I'd entertain a motion.
Yes, Mr. Chair, for Board of Building Appeals case number 20-0090. The appellant is Pedro Ascadome for the premises 1408 Oakland Park Avenue, that is in Columbus, Ohio. The appellee is Amit Ghosh, building official for the City of Columbus Building Department, and adjudication order number ALTC 1912638. I move that the variance be granted subject to the conditions previously read in the record and noting no objection of the building and fire officials.
Okay, that motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chair, Chip Welch.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the variance is granted on those conditions. Anything else to come before the board on this case? Hearing none, we'll stand adjourned on that case. And let me move here. Thank you very much, Young and Amit and Chief Sanders. Enjoy your weekend. That concludes our active docket. Case number, I got a phone ring behind me. Case number 20-0118, which was Mideast Ohio adjudication matter, has been continued, as was an elevator division case this morning. Someone may need to mute if they're on the phone. Case number 20-0112, that case has been continued to December 14th. So that would conclude our docket today, subject to approving our time and effort preparing and participating today. Is there a motion to approve for preparation and compensation of the board members?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Motion's been made. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? So we've approved the minutes for November 16th and 17th already. We have established at least dates for January, and we have resolved to see that we're compensated for our efforts today. Is there anything else to come in front of the board? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made, it's been seconded. All those in favor of adjourning say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much, Nick. Thank you, Susan. And everybody enjoy your weekend.
Go Browns.
All right, go Browns. They're gonna